The college football playoff is through 2 years, and there's been a lot of different teams make noise. But who's going to do it this year? We're going to talk about that next, right here in this crossover, Locked on the Portal and Locked on College Football.
You are Locked on College Crossover, part of the Locked on Podcast Network. Your team every day.
This crossover, Locked on College Football and Locked on the Portal. I am Brian Smith with Spencer McLaughlin. This is going to be one of the many trends that we're going to have talking about next year's college football playoff. We've got some fun questions for Spencer today. Going to put him on the hot seat, but he always delivers. But we are going to talk about the possibility of two Big 12 teams in the playoff next year. Is it realistic? Is it not? I don't know. We're going to get into that a little later in the show. We're going to talk about a team that Spencer knows very well in the middle of the show. Quack Attack, they actually have added a couple of players. We'll at least briefly get into that. We'll talk about them probably a little more next week. But the Ducks definitely going to be a playoff contender. But to start, playoff trends, Spencer, here's my take. There will be at least one team that nobody thinks has any shot to make the playoff. And Indiana just got to prove how that goes over the last 2 years. I don't know who it's going to be, but we're going to take a stab at it right here. And to that end, I have three questions. And I'm such a nice guy. I'm even going to put them on the screen for everybody on YouTube, and I'll read them off. Here we go. Look, the 6 best bets to reach the playoff next year. Just early lines, early thoughts from our guy, Spencer McLaughlin. I'm sure you're going to put the Ducks in that. But who else are you going to throw in for your other 5, brother?
Indiana has to be in there. I don't think you can have a reasonable playoff conversation and expectation without putting both them and Ohio State into the mix. I think Miami's got to be in there now that they've added Mensa, the quarterback from Duke. And I think what Mario has built is very sustainable. They've done well in the portal. I'm never picking against Kirby Smart and Georgia. And I think Notre Dame's got to be in there too. I think Notre Dame was a really good team this year. And I know Irish fans are not thrilled with what I've said over the last several months over some of the things that have happened. And that's perfectly fine. From a pure football standpoint, I think Notre Dame was a great team this year. They were not one of the most deserving teams based on the criteria to make the college football playoff. Next year, though, with their schedule and that chip on their shoulder after getting yanked around by the committee, I think they have to be in that conversation as well. And then Oregon is definitely there. Their schedule is a lot tougher than it was a year ago. The roster they have coming back, though, is just so strong. It's so deep. It's not just Dante Moore. It's their starting center. It's their top wide receivers. It's an NFL caliber tight end, even though they lost another NFL caliber tight end in Kenyan Sadiq, who's going to be taken in the first round. It's all 4 defensive linemen. It's bringing in Coy Parrish, the top safety in the portal. That Oregon roster is national championship or bust. And I think this year's team did very well, aside from the final Indiana game, considering how relatively inexperienced they were. It was a very young team, and Dante Moore is where that started. It's not where it ended. I think they're going to be right back in the playoff next year. So a lot of the heavy hitters for sure, but those programs just keep showing that their staffs are really good and that their rosters are really good. So I don't know that I would look outside of those bets and say there's anyone that's safer than that. I think teams that are kind of on that next level for me, Texas A&M, Alabama, Ole Miss. I think you can put BYU in there as well. Texas Tech, can they really follow up what they just did? We're going to find out. They've had a great portal cycle once again. Those are a lot of interesting questions. But I do start with Indiana. I don't think there's a big drop-off there, Brian. I really don't.
Okay, I want to come back to Indiana momentarily. There's one team, and I put Spencer on the spot here for those of you listening, that he didn't say. I'm just waiting to see if he remembers. Hint, they were in the national title game this year.
I said Miami.
You did?
Yeah.
Okay, then I just missed it.
Okay. Yeah, happens. No, I definitely think if Miami hadn't gotten Darian Mensah from Duke,
Right.
I would have said, no, your quarterback, even though they're not super reliant on quarterback play, I don't think you can be there with what they would have had. I mean, it would have been a mess.
Yeah.
They might have had to go and get the San Jose State guy, Winston Eget, who's, fine, whatever. I don't know if he's officially wound up at Duke yet. That's the expectation. But no, I think Miami's your clear-cut favorite in the ACC. Are we going to go through the rest of those? Yeah, by a significant. After Clemson flopped, I've got no faith in Dabo. He's not adapting to the portal very well. We've seen that. But can you throw those 3 questions back up there on YouTube again? Can I give you a deep Duke level sleeper for the playoff?
Fire away.
The California Golden Bears.
I'm okay with that, actually.
I thought you might be, because they are in a conference that was just won by a 7-5 team.
I know.
I mean, that's where we're at. Virginia made the ACC championship game, and by the way, think about this: Mensa led Duke to the ACC title game and ultimately winning that conference championship game. Who does Cal have a quarterback? Oh, yeah. The guy that would have been the number 1 transfer portal quarterback in all likelihood, had he not decided to stay in Berkeley. Tosh Lupoi has got the recruiting rolling there. He's not inheriting a disastrous situation. It's a dark sleeper, and they would probably have to go the Duke route, but they're playing in the ACC. I don't think that I haven't glanced at their schedule just yet. I'll pull that up real quick, but yeah, if you're looking for like a dark sleeper, Cal, a more reasonable or kind of mid-level sleeper, give me USC.
I think USC's got a chance to go 10-2 this next year because their O-line, D-line should be better.
Should be, yeah.
Maeva's a 5th-year senior. That does not hurt.
No.
Either. All right, now on the opposite end of this, to finish up segment 1, out of all the teams, whether it's your list, somebody else's, top 10, top 8, whatever you want to go with, who's the top preseason pick this next year that gets all the hype? That just like Penn State this year obviously flopped. I think we can safely assume Clemson in that same boat. Is there at least one of those, and who is it if you're going to pick one?
It pains me to say this. Right now, early glance, I'd lean towards Texas Tech.
Really?
I would. And the reason is I think Baron Morton got a little bit too much hate for the way that he played last year. I think Brendan Sorsby is good. Obviously, any of these teams are one quarterback injury away from just completely falling apart, even if it's only for a handful of games. I don't know where Ole Miss is getting picked. If they don't have Trinidad Chambliss, then they're going to be an 8-ish win team. And I think Pete Golding is doing perfectly fine. But if that doesn't work itself out, maybe it has by the time you're listening to or watching this show, Ole Miss would be a team that'll be picked pretty high that I could see falling off. But, Texas Tech had such a great season, and they were so good, and they were so dominant. And the first time that they got tested by a team that was better than them, they didn't score a point. So that makes me hesitate to I'm not saying they should have beaten Oregon. I don't think they should have. I thought Oregon was going to win the game, and then they did. I didn't think it was going to be 23-0. So that gives me a little bit of staff concern there. And look, falling off could be 8-4, and 8-4 in the Big 12 probably not going to get you ranked by the end of the season. But Texas Tech last year was just so dominant. They beat the living daylights out of everybody that they played. And I think that, my making this suggestion right now, which I'm sure will be wildly popular and largely agreed upon, of course, I think it's based on the fact that the Big 12 is leveling up more than Texas Tech is coming way down. And They haven't been there consistently. Joe McGuire just had one great season. It was really good. The roster he put together was amazing. But that was a place they had never been before, and now they're in the follow-up act. Now, Indiana rode their follow-up act to the national championship and going 16-0. Maybe that's what Texas Tech is going to do as a bounce back. But right now, if I had to pick one of a team that's likely to be in the top 8 for next year, I'd probably take Texas Tech.
By the way, I think they have the easiest schedule of any team that'll be ranked in the top 15 next year. Their schedule is.
It is. It is indeed. It is indeed not what you'd call a murderer's row. By the way, just really quick, I mentioned Cal as being that playoff sleeper. You ready for their schedule?
Okay, go right ahead.
UCLA, new head coach. At Syracuse, sneaky tough game. Syracuse will bounce back. Wagner, Clemson is at home. At UNLV, it's a Mountain West team, should be fine. Virginia Tech and Wake Forest. At SMU. At NC State. Bye. At Virginia, Stanford, and Pitt at home.
They could go 8-4 without having many close games, really. SMU and a couple others, but if JKS is what we think he is, they'll be in every game. That's
what I'm saying, man. Not 9-3. 9-3 with only 2 conference losses. That's on the table.
Yeah, absolutely. It's good for college football, by the way. Absolutely good for college football. I love to see the uprising. So I'm here for it. And I know you are as well. And I know Spencer is also here for the Quack Attack. I have a few basic questions for him. I don't have to prep him on these. And if I ever have to, when we have other problems.
Yeah, I'm probably getting fired.
Yeah, that means that he's getting fired from Locked On Ducks. But that is next here on this crossover. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. It's the last call for football on FanDuel. One final Sunday, one last kickoff, the final chance to get in on all the action before the NFL season officially comes to a close. It's Super Bowl 60, and FanDuel is making sure you get it right, and you're right in the middle of it with a special offer just in time for the biggest football game of the year. Whether you're backing your favorite team, and that would be maybe the Seahawks, like Spencer. I know he's going to be a very big Seahawks fan in that game. Or maybe you are like Zach Wackerby, who is a big Patriots fan, and you're backing the underdog. Either one doesn't matter. Whether it's one of those two teams that's going to win and you're going to make some money on it, that's up to you. But this is the last chance you're going to get to do it, whether it's player props, halftime scores, even the coin toss with FanDuel. If you're a new customer, also note this, $5 down, and if it hits, you get $200 in bonus bets. Make it count because this is the last game of the year. It's Super Bowl 60. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Thank you once again for making Locked on the Portal and Locked on Ducks and Locked on College Football, for that matter, a part of your day each and every day right here on the nation's #1 podcasting network. Check out the link below. On each of our shows, there is the Everydayer Club where you can get your audio for free. $5. $5. I call it free because it's no ads. I don't like ads. You don't like ads. Spencer, you like ads? No, I'm going to speak.
We'd rather just let the good times flow.
There you go. Or you can do $50 a year. Check out the Everydayer Club down below. All right, Ducks. Besides Dante Moore, that's low-hanging fruit. We both expect him to be one of the best players in college football. I was doing my Ducks report. By the way, that doc sheet I sent you, it's about done, minus the guys they just added. I haven't had a chance to research them yet. This should be a top 5 roster, depending on how you want to look at it. I think top 8's conservative, maybe even top 3, however you want to view it. But having an experienced quarterback, and Dante's a guy that I'm a big fan of. You mentioned something, though, that caught me off guard. I'm a massive, right here, Kenyan Sadiq guy. He's going to the league, well-deserved.
Mm-hmm.
Who and why do you think it's going to work out really good at tight end? You said that in the last let's hear it.
Yeah. Jamari Johnson is the name to know. He will be one of the top tight ends as an NFL draft prospect in the class of 2027. And that's because of the year that he just had at Oregon. He's different than Kenyan Sadiq. They are not the same type of player. Sadiq is a hybrid wide receiver basically Brock Bowers, Kyle Pitts type, who also, especially in run blocking, will put a guy on his rear end. He loves to block, and he is quite good at it. Jamari Johnson, I actually think, has a ways to go as a blocker, even though he's 6'5", 250, but he has got a wiggle and a catch radius that guys like that just don't typically have. He's got phenomenal hands. His run after catch is really good. He actually barely had fewer yards receiving this year than Kenyan Sadiq. They combined for the most statistically productive tight end season, I believe, in Oregon football history. They had over 1,000 yards. They were encroaching 1,100 combined, and they combined for 11 touchdowns. Jamari Johnson had 3, and Sadiq had 8. So, he's not, Jamari Johnson, a guy like Sadiq who you can line up in the slot and have run, a speed out or a corner that he's going to just sprint and look like a wide receiver and then hurdle a guy on his way. Jamari Johnson is your more traditional tight end build, and the rapport he had with Dante Moore was really good all over the field. Screen passes, flag routes, down the seam. He chops and moves his feet very well for a guy of his size. I think he is a really, really intriguing prospect who had a redshirt year at Louisville, didn't play a ton at Louisville and got hurt, came to Oregon, and everyone, I think, is really excited about what he brings to the table. So, yeah, losing Sadiq definitely stinks. By the way, they have a 5-star freshman tight end coming in who Kendra Harrison. Yeah, not a lot of tight ends or human beings built like that guy either. So I think what Oregon has at that spot makes me feel as good as I can about losing a first-round pick.
That's fair. You've got proven production, and you got Kendra, who's 6'6" plus, coming in, and I'm sure they got a couple other guys that are at least serviceable.
Yeah, they added Andrew Olish, former borderline 5-star recruit from Penn State, hasn't played college football before, but athletically is kind of in that Kenyan Sadiq mold as well. So you put those 3 guys together, I like the tight end room a lot.
Where is the biggest concern for you next season for the Ducks?
There are 2, in my view, correct responses to this. Number 1, offensive tackle. They had 2 good ones this year. They were not as good as the guys the year before, who admittedly were first-round pick Josh Connerly and I think 5th-round pick Ajani Cornelius. Alex Harkey is actually going into the NFL draft and is listed as a guard prospect, and Isaiah World was good, don't get me wrong. He was not as good as the hype around him was coming from Nevada. He was a 5-star transfer. He played like a 4-star on the field, which is, by the way, still better than still really good. Was he perfect? No. So replacing those 2 guys, they went after Jordan Seaton, didn't get him. He goes to LSU. The staff clearly felt like the options they have were not as good as they could possibly do with somebody like Seaton available. So I think they're okay in those spots. Fox Crater probably starts at left tackle, and then you have a battle at right tackle between the Yale transfer Michael Bennett and Janoris Wilson, who's pretty experienced at this point in his college football career. So I feel okay about those spots, but frankly, Brian, the biggest question might be kicker.
That's important. Like in close.
It is. It sounds silly, weird, ridiculous. Oh, why are you talking about? Gage Hurick has a massive leg. He was dynamite on kickoffs last year. Almost always a touchback, which is not punitive in college the way it is now in the NFL, where they're trying to incentivize returns. No, a touchback is a good outcome, and he's got plenty of leg, and when the ball comes off his foot for a field goal, it looks fine, and he made the PATs that he had. He kicked 1 field goal last year, and he was, I believe, a redshirt freshman. He's got no more than 2 or 3 field goal attempts in his career. He might just have 1. And Atticus Sappington won you the Iowa game, basically won you the Washington game, and was just so money all season long. And now look at what he did against Texas Tech in the Orange Bowl. the value of a kicker can't go overlooked. It's not just because Oregon plays in the Big Ten now. Duck fans know that all too well. National championship caliber seasons have been thwarted by not having a kicker be able to deliver. Oregon would not have been in the playoff this year if Atticus Sappington hadn't been on the team. Full stop. They would not have been in the college football playoff. So that's probably my second biggest concern. There are other specialists and return men. They're fine. But place kicker, I don't know. That is a legitimate question right now.
Well, they do have the Keaton Emmett kid coming in.
He didn't kick field goals at Nevada. He was a kickoff specialist. I think they brought him in for competition because Herrick was good in the kickoff realm. So those two guys are probably battling it out. He kicked field goals at Western Oregon, so it might be a case of he's got a chance. He's following his punter, Bailey Ettridge, who's going to be Oregon's starting punter next year. It might just be a familiarity or bringing a friend along thing. I don't know. I really don't know. That position battle, I'm not kidding you, is probably number 2, maybe number 3 on my top things to watch going into spring practice.
My only other question for you is Oregon's recruited D-line as well as anybody over the last 4 years. They lost 7 guys. Their depth, that starters are fine. I'm pretty sure it is, but Tatum Tuioti, by the way, there is no better warrior in the front 7 of a defense in college football. He had too many snaps this year, though. He was over 700, if I remember right. That's too many.
Yeah.
That's insane for a defensive edge player. They played him in he was just big.
I think Mateo had that many as well.
That's a problem. Eventually that's going to cost you. I know they've got the other guys coming up. Are you thinking that they're going to rotate at least a little more, not as much? They got some transfers that are okay. The big kid they got from one of Louisiana schools barely played, but he's massive. Who's going to be the first or second guy off the bench for the D-line for the Ducks?
Well, it's a different type of player and a guy that I know you remember, and it's Nasir Wyatt. Nasir Wyatt. This is my favorite. Hold on, I've got the stats here. I want to make sure I say this correctly because it is indeed insane. Okay. Nasir Wyatt was 3rd on Oregon's team in sacks this year. 3rd. Okay. The 2 guys ahead of him are exactly the 2 guys that you would expect. Tatum Tuioti was 1st. Mateo Uyunglele was 2nd with 9.5 and 6, respectively. Those 2 guys, as we just mentioned, logged a lot of snaps, over 700 apiece. How many snaps, Brian, do you think Nasir Wyatt logged?
185.
41.
How many sacks did he have?
3.
It's a good
He
sign.
was on the field. Think about how crazy this is. This year, he was 1 sack away from averaging 1 sack for every 10 snaps that he was on the field. So here, the interesting thing with him is he is not built like the other guys. He right now is a pass rush specialist. He is a Von Miller mold sort of player that is dynamic and just ridiculously twitchy and explosive. There was a name for the package. They called it 3rd and Nas. You are in an obvious passing situation, we're putting Nasir Wyatt on the field. That's what the Oregon staff did, and it worked very well. 3 sacks in 41 snaps is crazy efficiency. By the way, that doesn't even measure his quarterback hurries. He was credited for 2 of those. So he was impacting the quarterback statistically 1 in every 5 times that he logged a snap on the field. The question is, can he go out there when a team could realistically run the ball? Right now, TBD. Because he's small. He's 6'2", 228 pounds. He's big.
245-ish, 240.
Yeah, has to get up there, but he's also a little bit short. He's listed 6'2". I think he's more he looks like he's more 6'1". You look at what Tuioti is on the field. You look at what Mateo is out there at 6'5". Nasir Wyatt looks very short compared to them, but he bends a lot better than them. So I'm interested to see how that unfolds, but a name to watch is also Elijah Rushing, former borderline 5-star recruit coming. I think he was a 5-star by some services coming out of high school. He's going into his 3rd year, hasn't played a big role. I think this is kind of the put up or shut up sort of year for him because he's got plenty of physical traits and ability. He hasn't put it all together yet. When they lost Blake Purchase and Ashton Porter, they suddenly lost a lot of guys at that defensive end spot. And then there's Tank Jones, the incoming 5-star true freshman who probably plays. He's got to play in some capacity. I don't know how big a role, but I think he'll see the field a little.
He's a freak. I know that. Yeah, that's not a normal human being. So
no, he is not.
When we come back, Big 12 questions. Going to put Spencer on the hot seat again. This is fun stuff. It's February. Let's have some fun. Let's have some fun. That is next here on this crossover. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Mazda, making the game move forward. For those who show there's more to the score than what's on the screen, I'm just going to use an example from what we just talked about. Tatum Tuioti for Oregon is one of the rarest players that I've seen in recent memory in college football. Over 700 snaps, and this is a guy that played edge, middle linebacker. They would move him in and out, different spots. He mastered not only his craft in terms of hand-eye coordination, all that, but he had to master the playbook, and he was a guy that they counted on in every way, shape, or form. 3rd down and short, 1st and 10, pass rush, whatever it is. He's a game changer, and that's what it's all about. These kinds of players remind us of what it takes to raise the bar. It's that extra work off the field, dialing in every detail, giving it that extra fire and that grit, and never quit. We put that same passion into every model, highlights that make the real. What it took to get there makes it count. There's more to a Mazda because there is more to you. Spencer, straight out of the gate, brother. Texas Tech is by a bazillion miles the favorite to win the conference next year by pretty much everybody. And they can still flop. We talked about that earlier. But they're, especially with their schedule, for those that don't know, they don't play BYU. I already checked that. I'm like, oh, boy, that's unfortunate. I would like to see that game again this next year. BYU probably wants another shot. Bear Bachmeier, don't play them. They've got 7 transfer D linemen. They did not play around again. They went out and got some players. They went and got Brendan Sorsby, and Ward only knows how much it costs, depending on who you want to believe on that.
By the way, they play at Cincinnati on October 24th.
Yes, that's fantastic.
Yes, it is.
I have no idea how good Cincinnati will be, but that will be raucous.
Yep.
And I get it. And I get it. I get it. I'm here
great.
for it.
It is great.
I know you're here for it too. My question is, besides Texas Tech and BYU, is there anybody else that you think deserves consistent consideration, preseason at least, to be a playoff contender? And if there is, why?
The Houston Cougars have maybe the best coaching staff in the Big 12. BYU is in that discussion as well.
I would agree.
Texas Tech is really good. The Cougars just won 10 games. I don't know how many people realize that. They beat LSU to end the season in, I believe, the Texas Bowl. And the way that it's been built for Willie Fritz over the last couple of years, the progression would indicate that there is a pop season incoming, as if 10 wins with Houston in the Big 12 wasn't pop enough. The way their schedule sets up, the opportunity is going to be there. And by the way, they do play Texas Tech in Lubbock on September 19th. It's an early conference game, and it's one of the biggest in the league. It's got real Texas Tech Utah vibes from 2025. That game going to be absolutely huge. So I think what the Cougs have done and their trajectory deserves a lot of recognition there. And then they're going to be tested. They're going to play at Texas Tech, I mentioned. They're going to play at Kansas State. They're going to play at Utah, and they're going to host Cincinnati. So they're going to have the chance to put themselves in that discussion. The question is whether they can level themselves up. And that's not an easy thing to do. There's a lot of depth in the Big 12. But yeah, I don't think your big question here, the Big 12 getting 2 teams in, I've continued to say, because I have always believed and will always believe, the Big 12 should have gotten 2 teams into the playoff this year. I'm not someone that wants to deal with my subjective perception of how good a team is. And that's what most people go to when they say, well, BYU shouldn't have been in. Well, if it were just, Spencer's eye test for all this sort of stuff, no, they wouldn't have been. However, if you look at literally any schedule metric, BYU should have been in the playoff. They played in a better rated conference than Miami did. They had a better record, and they had a better strength of schedule, and they made their conference championship game. But it didn't matter. And so the playoffs sticking at 12 overall, I like that because it keeps a lot of urgency on the regular season games, which I'm very big on. But overall, can the Big 12 get a second team in? Yes, they might need a little bit more help. They might need a little bit more preseason recognition because so many voters and playoff folks.
There it is.
Yeah, I'm not someone that's anti preseason polls and rankings, but I put out my own rankings during the season every week. And something that I feel good about with those rankings is I don't cling to my preseason perceptions. I'm rewarding teams based on what actually happens, not what I think they can actually be. So I think the Big 12 will need some help in that regard. I don't think it's crazy at all. I really don't. I mean, BYU might have gotten in if they just played a better game against Texas Tech. What if they lost on a last-second field goal? I don't think the committee... Yeah, I don't think the committee leaves them out then for, getting beat. Okay, Texas Tech took care of you, but that was in Lubbock, and then you go on a neutral site if you'd only lost the game by 3. Like, is that really the margin we're talking about? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But between Utah, who I expect to be very good with Devin Dampier back, BYU and Bear Bachmeier returning, Texas Tech, and then some others that were kind of in that next tier of teams last season. Your Houstons, your Arizona States, your Arizonas, for goodness sake. I don't think it's out of the realm any of them can make it. I just wonder, and I wondered this with the Big 12 last year when I again argued to the dismay of many that the Big 12 was going to be one big league. The problem was the number of opportunities for marquee, resume-boosting non-conference wins just aren't really there.
Yeah, that hurts.
They just weren't there. I mean, one of the biggest non-conference games the Big 12 played last year, not the only one, but it was Arizona State at Mississippi State. They lost. It was Baylor playing Auburn. They lost. And then we realized Auburn wasn't very good. So the chances are just fewer and further between, and they've got to take advantage of those games when they do. But yeah, unfortunately, it might come down to voters just letting go of their preseason perceptions of what a team is. That would help the Big 12 a lot.
Good luck with that.
Yeah.
People are biased towards themselves. I know this.
Yeah. Well, I'm right. I know all. Check your ego at the door.
Yeah, that's very difficult with a lot of riders. To that end, my pick as the possible sleeper is Arizona State. They got Cutter Boley, a kid that was an elite quarterback recruit, went to Kentucky a year early. He's got a cannon. He's transferring to a staff that knows what to do with quarterbacks. I think the Sam Leavitt experiment kind of, at least.
They made Jeff Sims look competent, Brian.
I know, that's impressive.
Jeff Sims.
And did you see the list of receivers they brought in? Raiden Bansbright.
Yeah, they got some dudes. They got some dudes. I'm very interested. Amarian Miller from Colorado. I'm very interested to see what their preseason win total is going to be. Because I'm going to pull up their schedule real quick.
I haven't looked at that. I haven't looked at their schedule either. I just know that the wide receiver group.
Yeah, so they open. Oh, my goodness. I did not even realize this, Brian.
Okay.
As I said it out loud, did not realize this. Arizona State opens with Morgan State. Do you know who they play on September 12th, week 2?
No clue.
At Texas A&M.
Oh, that's fun.
That is fun.
That is really
These are the sorts of games that I want to keep seeing in college football. I can't go off on that tangent. I'll talk for 6 minutes in a row and then Zach will yell at us for going too long. But then they play Kansas, Baylor, Hawaii, at Texas Tech, Kansas State, at BYU, Colorado, at UCF, Oklahoma State, at Arizona. Yee. As Big 12 schedules go, you have to go at Texas Tech, host Kansas State, and then go at BYU. That's 3 straight weeks.
Arizona at the end is not necessarily an easy game either.
No, they're not. Arizona was a good team last year. I bet Arizona State's win total is 7.5.
I would pick over, but if they have any injuries, it could quickly plummet. And they are a boomer bust team, quite possibly, because I need to see Arizona State's defense. I'm just saying, if it's a shootout league like it normally is, they're going to have some firepower.
Yeah.
Miller, like a receiver, is going to be a possible All-American. So I think
he's stud.
They're really good. Spencer, tell everybody where they can find your work, my friend.
Wherever you're listening to or watching this show right now. That's where both of my shows are. Easy. Easy. It's like we're part of the same network or something.
It's amazing how that works.
Funny.
Locked On is very consistent. Yeah, we are on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Podbean, and everywhere else you can find these podcasts. We will see you again soon.